Hey everyone, I'm Mind, and this video is my interview with Li Wing, the Ninjago designer behind the all-new Oldtown set. We had the chance to chat on a video call all about this set, and while it definitely doesn't look as nice as my footage from Fan Media Days because I'm not there in person, it was still a really interesting conversation to hear more about the design process behind the set, how it came to be, how the minifigures were chosen, all of the challenges in designing such an incredible set. So I think without further ado, let's just hop straight into it.
Right, so hi everyone, I'm Sean or Bricks by Mind, and I'm here with Lee to discuss the new Old Town Ninjago set, which don't know when I'm uploading this, but it's potentially like within a couple hours of it being revealed. So very new, very exciting, but there's a lot of going on here. So I'm very excited to dive into everything behind the set.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Lee. I'm actually a senior model designer now from Ninjago,
Oh
and I'm here
wow,
to talk
nice.
about the Old Town from our 15th anniversary celebration. I'll give a little structure to this interview, so I think I'll start by talking about the concept behind this product, and then we'll talk maybe a little bit about the model, and then halfway through we can finish it with the minifigures, which is probably what people are most interested about. So I'm guessing the first question that most people would ask is, why is this not a Ninjago city? Which is definitely something that was on the table in the very beginning when we thought about what are we gonna do for the D2C this year. And also, actually, speaking of Ninjago City, I want to take the chance to clarify something. I think there is this misconception in the fan community that we have a schedule to Ninjago City, where we
Mhm.
have like a Ninjago City every 2 years. We don't. So every time it happens, it's just because something happens. For instance, the 10th anniversary, and then we have the Dragon's Rising coming up. So we want the big set to draw people in. And then workshops was actually something where there was a suggestion in the team about exploring the possibility of making a smaller Ninjago city. So it was never something that we plan out like Icon's team would say, oh, okay, this year we definitely need another modular, and this year we definitely need another modular. So it was never off the table. It's not because, oh, we have done it last year already, so we're not doing it this year. I just want to
Mhm.
clarify that when we have the chance. So that was on the table. Then another option we thought about was, what about we remake a certain set, or we do a set of a location that has never been done before? You know, everything that people have speculated about, we thought of it. But personally, I really rooted for the direction we ended up with, which is to make a new original location. And there are several reasons to it. When I was first handed the brief of making the anniversary D2C, I'm super excited, right? The way I approached it was similar to how I approached it when I designed the Source Dragon of Motion, which is look back in the history and see what we have done and what people said about it. And when I was looking through all the D2Cs we have done for Ninjago, the thing that hits me is, I think, to me, I don't know about you or any other fans, but I would say in general, I think if you ask someone what is the most iconic Ninjago sets in the last 15 years, I think it would either be the Temple of Ejitsu or the first Ninjago City. And the way I see it, they are the most iconic because they're the first of their kind. Um, and that's what I really want this model to be. At that point, I don't know what I would do, but at least in terms of the direction, I really want to drive us that way because I remember the moment back then when those products were revealed, and I was just a Lego fan, right? I saw them and I was completely blown away. I wasn't even like a
Yeah.
hardcore Ninjago fan, but to me, what it speaks is that Ninjago is a really cool theme. It's a theme that allows us to do products like the Temple of Jitsu, which you look around and there's no other theme that would be able to pull off a D2C that looks like that. Or same with the first Ninjago City. It was just out of left field, and you look at it and it's like, wow, now I want to pay attention to the theme. And I think for the 15th anniversary, it's really important to recapture that sort of uniqueness to our centerpiece of the celebration. I think the fact that when we were talking about it, we were like, should we do another Ninjago City module? I think that already rubs me the wrong way, because this is supposed to be celebrating the franchise anniversary. We should be celebrating what allows it to stay for 15 years, right? And to just do another one of something, not even necessarily Ninjago City, but like say another remake of a set. You know, all of those ideas kind of goes down the same direction to me, which is it's not a statement to show why Ninjago is still here after 15 years.
Right.
And then on the other hand, I also really want to make sure that this is a set that celebrates the franchise as a whole. So if we're to remake a certain model or to do a certain locations only, we're immediately locked in by what can be included or what can be referenced in the model, right? It would have to be something that happened in the show. The minifigure lineup, I can only do characters that ever appear in that setting, or it would make sense in that setting. So I think that also kind of contradicts the whole idea that this is the centerpiece. This celebrates Ninjago as a franchise. So that's why we went for this direction. The concept of what you see here in the end actually sparks from a team trip in Lego House. So our neighbors. I think back in 2023, it was when we had a team trip there, and in the green zone, I want to say, I think it's the green zone, the one that has the daytime, nighttime shift with the diorama. That was that massive castle layout, right? And at the time, our head of product, Nigel, and our creative lead, Sven, looked at that, and when they came back from the trip, they wrote down a note on our idea board. I was like, can we do something like an epic Castle Wish set, but with Ninjago as a theme? And when I thought of the D2C suggestion, my mind immediately went there, because I was like, that's a pretty cool idea if we can pull that off. And essentially, that's what sparked the idea of making this town. And even when I was designing this set, I referenced a lot to some of my childhood favorite, the fantasy era castle, with the King's Castle, where you get the modular system, and then also the medieval marketplace, which I referenced in the sense of like, how did they create that sense of a town? I always look at that set very fondly, because it was a childhood favorite of mine, and I always thought that's something very cool about how they create that sense of them gathering in the town, and I hope to replicate that here. So even though this is first and foremost Ninjago set, I hope no one would question that with all the minifigures and the references. But I still really hope that this set can transverse to like the wider audience of Lego fan community, especially for the castle fans, because there's actually a lot more Lego Castles DNA or like ties to this model than you may think. And actually, that's also a third additional reason to why I think I want this direction, is that when I look at the first Ninjago City and the Temple of Jitsu, I think there's also something cool about how it speaks to a wider audience than just the Ninjago fans. I think that's what makes them very iconic in the Lego community as a whole. So when we talk about remaking a certain set or like making a certain location from the show, I think that's also takes a little bit away from that. This is a very big set. This is gonna be, well, I hope this is gonna be like the spotlight set for the wave, and hopefully this would be the entry point for a lot of non-Ninjago fans as well, where they look at it and be like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. I would like to see more of what Ninjago has to offer. So I think there's also that consideration in it, where I don't want this model to be something that only the hardcore fans look at it and be like, oh, that's the thing from that season that I really want for 15 years. I mean, we had the blacksmith shop for that already, and I think we'll also always try to look at the lineup as a whole. And the blacksmith shop kind of feel that, and the Lloyd title mech kind of feel the whole remake or like a second take on an old model. And I think for the D2C, it makes sense to do something brand new. But that said, this this location is actually going to be in Dragon's Rising Season 4. So it's actually going to be it's going to be a canonical location. The way it happens was actually the model came first, and then the writers were looking at our product lineup, and they came up with a brilliant way of writing that into the story.
It's awesome.
So it's not the other way around. And because of that, you will actually see bits and pieces of this model in the show, but it's not going to look exactly like this. The way I describe this model is more like the Monkey Kid Megapolis City for the fifth anniversary. It's more of a celebration of the franchise. It's not one-to-one canonical, but the location exists in the story, right?
Right.
And also because of that, please do not take any of the things happening in this set as an implication to where the plot is going. I cannot stress that enough. This is not an indication that the Time Twins will return. Like, none of the reference here is an implication of anything.
Dr. Julian's not going to be hanging out with Dr. LaRoe?
Well, I mean, I cannot confirm nor deny that, but if they are, the set is not where you get the information from. The one thing that is gonna be canonical to the set is actually the inclusion of the Loyalists, because the writers wrote them in, and they actually have a hideout in the Oldtown in the show.
Oh, that's really cool.
So that's why we decided to include them. But of course, I'm jumping ahead to minifigures, but that's also part of like the Dragon's Rising references, right? But I think is there anything else I want to talk about the concept of the set? Maybe not. I think if you have any questions, I can answer that in that regard first before we jump into the model itself.
No, I think what you said makes a lot of sense. I'll admit, when I first opened the box, I'm like, wow, that looks really cool, but like, I was like, is this something from the show? What's this supposed to be? Like, when we first heard the name, the Oldtown, I do want to ask about the name, because that is an established location in the show. Like, that name has been used, but it's only sort of been in external media. Was this supposed to represent that location at any point, or is it just coincidence that the name ended up the same thing?
It was just coincidence. It was like we came up with a town, and then I think when they wrote it in the script, they called it the Oldtown. Because in the show, when you see it, it's gonna be like in modern days where there are like other skyscrapers built around it already. Which in my head, this model is more depicting the olden times. But I guess when you look across the minifigure lineup and the references, it's more like it exists in a vacuum of time. Like there's no time point in this model. But in the show, it's gonna be like that one square in town that is still preserved, but the rest of the town is already built into the modern day Ninjago city. So it was just coincidence, and because it was already in the script, we're just like, we're gonna stick with it for the product. So it ended up being called the Oldtown. Yeah.
No, it make like building this up, and it does just have, it feels so alive, the entire set. There's so many different things, but yet it all connects so well, and it's like, and I'm sure we'll go through this, but it does seem like every single era of the show is represented in some way or another. And it does just blow me away the way just it all is laid out. And for the viewers, I'm looking over here because my copy of the set's right next to me right here. But yeah, it's genuinely so very impressive, and I like hearing your explanation. That makes a ton of sense. And, yeah.
So going into the model, I think this is probably the most ambitious model I've ever worked on, in the sense that I want to achieve so much with it. For the first thing, as you said earlier, I really want to make sure that this is a celebration of the whole 15 years of Ninjago. There has to be references to every single season. And at the same time, I also want to make sure that this feels like a very complete set by itself, which is also one of the reasons why I don't want it to be another Ninjago City modules, because to me, the Ninjago cities, they're always of course cool on their own, but they're the coolest when they are built into the street, right? And there's always that kind of sentiment of like, I'm getting part of the city, but I'm not getting the whole thing. That's something I try to avoid here, because I know for a fact, I mean, I don't know the official price point at this point because it's not revealed yet. But it's of course going to be an expensive set, right? There's no doubt in that. And I'm just thinking like my experience as a fan, right? For instance, if I'm a huge fan of Dr. Julien, and I wouldn't feel very nice to say, I just want Dr. Julien, but I have to build this, I have to buy this massive set that I don't care about the rest of it. It kind of sucks, but it's also the only way characters like Dr. Julien could come into a set, because he's such a special character that in any other playset it doesn't really fit our narrative, right?
Mhm.
So my approach to it, I hope it makes sense. I hope the fans will appreciate it. But my thinking is that if I put enough of everything in the set, at least when you save up all your money for that one mega spending at Christmas next year or something, right? If this is the one Ninjago set you get for the year, I hope that you open the box, you build it, and you feel like this is it. Like this is the complete experience. I don't need anything more. I don't need anything more to complete it. I'm not missing out anything. There are so many cool characters that it actually justify the purchase. I'm not just buying it because of Dr. Julien. I'm also buying the Time Twins, the everyone. Again, I don't want to jump into that for now, but you get the idea, right? And that thinking sort of extend into the way the model is designed as well, with this whole layout being like the complete circle, making sure like the connection points, they are always connected to something, even when you do that 1 meter over a 1 meter long stretch of layout, you still have like the little pieces to cap it off at the end, so that on shelf it's never gonna look like, oh, I'm actually missing the next module. But of course, if you want to expand it, there's also the chance to expand it because it's modular. And that's another thing that I want to point out, because I think a lot of people, I already saw some speculation when they were like, oh, it's probably not going to be a modular. And people are like, I wish it was a modular, right? And to me, I was thinking like a modular, what's cool about modular is how you can customize it and you can play around with it. And technically, this set has more modularity than any of the Ninjago City set we've put out before, because the kind of modular system we had there is like every set is a block, and all you can do is arrange them differently, right? But here, when you rearrange the modules within itself, you actually create a lot of different layouts. And I was also talking to in the other interviews, I was also saying that I really hope that this set would inspire people to build their own modules, because I remember back then when I was a fan of collecting the modular house from Icons, or back then Creator Experts. I always want to build my own modules, but it's so intimidating to think about building a whole modular, right? And it's the same, I assume, for Ninjago City. I think there are probably a lot of fans out there who want to expand the Ninjago City, but Ninjago cities are always such complicated models. It's very daunting to think that you can come up with another module. But with this, another module can be anything. It can be a bridge, it can be just a little wall, it can be a little building. I really hope to see that people will be encouraged to make their own module and extend this town. Will there be more modules for this town? I don't know. When I pitched the idea, I was kind of suggesting that, there's that door always open, because once you unplug that little chunk at the back, there's an open connection point that you can maybe make a future set that connects to it. But I guess it hinges on how well this sells, so I don't know about that. But, even extending to the sense of the collectible minifigures, I was also thinking like, okay, if this has to feel like a complete set, I don't want the stand to feel like you need more to complete it, right? So it has that cap, the end cap on the two sides, but at the same time, even with the character selection, you have the First Spinjitzu Master and his sons. It makes perfect sense that you just have the three of them for a stand. You don't feel like you're missing the rest of it, but if you have them and put them there, it makes sense. So I really hope that people would appreciate it, that everything does feel like it is all within this one set. Like all the side builds, there's just enough space for it to put in the middle to fill up the town if you want to put them there. Yeah, I try my best to make sure that happens. Regarding the modular system as well, that can be the next thing I jump into. Right from the get-go, I know for a fact that I want this enclosed layout because I think it's something that we haven't done before in Ninjago, and in a large sense, also very rare in other LEGO sets. We have, of course, the castles that I was referencing, where we always have castles in the ring. But in terms of like a town, I don't think we've ever done any LEGO sets like this. So I thought it would be cool. But I was already thinking ahead because I have a very shallow shelf at home. How would you fit a ring of buildings onto a shelf? And of course, I was half joking there. I was thinking about my own shelf, but I was also thinking about, in general, LEGO fans, we're always running out of space, right? So to assume that people would have to buy this set and display it as a ring is kind of eh. So right from the get-go, I already have the idea that I would like it to be able to swing open like the old castles. But of course, with the size of this model, there's no way the hinge would be able to support the whole thing, especially with that 1 meter thing. Like, you will never be able to lift the whole thing up, right? So we went for the modulars, and at first in my head, the whole idea of the modular system is just to do that opening function. But in the end of the development, we look at it again with the model coach, and we're actually like, this is so close from being a perfect modular system where you can put whichever one you want next to whichever one you want. Is there anything we can do last minute just to make that happen? And that's when I transformed this First Spinjitzu Master statue into the adapter. And even though in the instruction you're only taught to use like 2 of them, there are actually 3 connection points to it, so that you can try it out hopefully in your reviews to see whatever crazy layout you can come up with. Even I personally have never tried to like come up with all the layouts because I think the possibility is just endless, right? Like, and especially if you can build more of your modules, you can always expand your town. So I hope that's a cool experience. And I would also like to actually share a little bit about the challenge I have when I was working on this model. It's a massive model, and because of my initial idea of it being interconnected as a ring, it actually gave me a lot of headache in the development, because changing one side of the ring would then affect everything on the other side. You have built a set already, so you know, of course, the layout is not a rectangle. It's not in grid. Everything is at an angle, and there was a lot of weird triangle maps to make sure that it fits together in the end. What happened halfway through the development was that I was about to have like my second model meeting where we would actually for the first time build through the model, and it was like a week before that. I was just about to start preparing all the steps and the volume to make sure that the meeting runs smoothly. My creative lead passed by, and he was like, "Oh, you're working with this?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then we start looking at the model, and we start thinking about how it would look on the box. And then we realized at that point of the sketch model, there is actually no angle. You can see the front gate at a nice way, but at the same time see the lookout and the side of the tower and the tree. And it's so ever slightly off that if you want to see the tree, you will lose the entire side of the tower, so it just looks like a wall, which is very weird. But if you want to see the side of the wall, the tree immediately gets blocked by the lookout. And I was like, oh, this is bad, because if I were to change the layout, everything would change, right? And I told him, like, I don't think I have enough time to do anything about that. I guess we can look at it after the meeting. And he was like, yeah, sure. Especially if your meeting is in a week. I guess that's what we have to do. And then he went away, and then I was left sitting there and thinking, actually, it doesn't make any sense to not fix this now, because then the model I built at the meeting would be wrong. Like, I would be building a model that I know for sure is not going to end up in the box. So I ended up changing the whole back section and give it like a little tilt, which I guess you know already when you build a model. There's like a slight angle at the back, the whole section, and that makes it work. But what happened is I have to trash 1/3 of my entire model in order just in order for it to be able to complete the circle again, because now everything with the maps is no longer working out. It's no longer connected. And I think that story illustrated a lot of the challenges with a model of this size. Everything is taking a long time to do. For instance, with the sketch model, usually I can like pump out sketch model like maybe two, three versions of a Mac, for instance, right? In a week. Every single version of this guy took me a whole month to make. So it was a whole month to get the first sketch model, and then there's a whole month to get the next version. And then every time I do that, I have to cross my fingers that nothing that I do would be extremely opposed by my boss, right? Because he's never seen the model until I present it. So that whole process was very, very intense. It's probably the most intense design process I've ever been in, I would say, especially if you consider the fact that I was working on the blacksmith shop on the side, which to this day I still think it was surreal to see both of the products turn out all right. But I mean, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't say no to the opportunity to to work on the blacksmith shop.
I mean, I'm incredibly impressed, but you made it happen, because I think I can probably say those are my two favorite sets of this wave, are these two. So
Thank
you
you.
made it happen.
I'm really happy to hear that. Actually, when we were assigning work, right, we always get to that point where we work on sketch model, but then we get assigned a model to work on. I spent, I think, 2 months ahead of time. I spent the time to mentally preparing myself to accept the fate that I would not be able to work on the blacksmith shop, because I know I'm gonna take on this one, and I was like, there's no way they will let me to work on this and the blacksmith shop. And I was just convincing myself, you know, and I mean, it's true. Like as a professional, as a Lego designer, we always work in teams, and we always pass our models around, right? It doesn't really matter if it is me who worked on a certain model, as long as the product ends up great, which I'm sure my colleagues would do the same. But as a Ninjago fan, there is something special about the blacksmith shop. It's like it's the set, and I would really hate to miss that chance to design that and work on it. But I was like, for sure they wouldn't let me. And when my boss dragged me to the corner and asked like, okay, so which set do you want to work on? And I was like, well, I don't think there's a question to that, right? It's of course I'm gonna work on the D2C, because that's what I've been working on. And he was like, no, I think you can probably do more than that. Is there any other set you want to work on? And at the time, I was still thinking like, that's probably like a small price point that he was thinking of, right? But then I thought, it probably doesn't harm to ask, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I would really love to do the blacksmith shop, but I know it's probably not realistic. And then he said to me, no, actually, that's the two models I would hope you would want to work on. But I thought that maybe you wouldn't want to work on two locations set in one wave. And like, are you kidding me? Of course, I would love to work on them, especially because I didn't get to work on any location for 2025. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. But it was very intense. I mean, you look at this model and you may think, oh, a bigger model would probably have more time, but the truth is we don't. because
Mm.
all the production timeline runs at the same time. We always have the same amount of time allocated to developing the first half year products. So I basically I have the exact amount of time of developing the Zane Combiner Mech last year as I have for developing this and the
Wow.
Blacksmith Shop, which was really crazy to think about. And like what I said earlier, this is also a model where like one thing changes, everything has to change to accommodate for that. So time was my biggest enemy in this set. And not to mention, actually, the whole process of working on this actually also feels like I'm working on 3 projects at the same time, because for the first time, not only do I have to work on the model, I also was driving the sticker sheets, because I'm the one who know all the reference, I'm the one who knows what I want to put in. So I was doing a lot of communication with the graphics designer on which screenshot should we reference, which sticker should we do, is this the detail we want? And then on the side, there's the minifigures that we will talk about in a bit, that I was also given the privilege to have a lot of influence over them. So that was like running 3 things at the same time, and I guess 4 things if you include the blacksmith shop. So that was a really wild experience. But I hope nothing slipped over, like just because I was so overwhelmed by the amount of stuff I have to take care of. But yeah, it was a wild ride.
So far, it does not seem that way. I was very impressed as I put this thing together. The further I got, I kept going. It was like, wow, okay, I see how this all comes together. I see what's going on here. It's
That's cool.
very, very impressive.
I guess before we jump into the minifigures, is there anything on the model that you want to ask about?
Yeah, I guess this sort of ties into minifigures, but
Yeah.
I'm curious, how did you determine like which characters you wanted to like properly incorporate into the build? Like, for example, there's like the little Faith Dragon Hunter shop, and there's
Yes.
the mail office, which is one of my favorite buildings. I think
Yeah.
that's such a cool idea to incorporate. How did you determine which minifigures would get a full building versus which ones were just there to sort of populate the environment?
Okay, I think I can't answer that question without going into minifigures. So now I actually remember one more thing I want to mention, which is the way you access the interior is also something I'm very happy with.
Yes.
Because first off, like what I said at the interview with the blacksmith shop, I said to my boss, this has to be a close back thing. I want this to be a close back thing. Because we've never done that technically of like a full-on traditional building that is completely enclosed. And I've seen a lot of comments and like fans saying that why can't we get a big D2C that is fully enclosed without it being a Ninjago city? So I thought this is the right chance to do it. And then as I go further into the concept, I think this model also has to be fully enclosed, because you have to make sure that when you display it on both sides in whatever configuration, you can look at it and there's no exposed backside. But I was also thinking, like, how do you access the interior, right? Of course, one easy way to go by would be like the Ninjago city, where you lift the levels up and then you go inside. But as I said again at the blacksmith interview, to me, I think the cross section is always the coolest way to look into a
Yes.
room and have minifigures playing out scenes. So I was thinking, since I'm breaking out of the mold of a Ninjago city, is there any chance that I can just offset every building by a bit to a point that you can actually pull off that way of accessing interior in every single room without lifting the whole tower off or something like that? And I'm really happy that it works out that way. There are, of course, places where you can still take off the roof for easier access. But to me, it's not just about the way of access. It's also about after you're putting a minifigure in, if you just want to take a picture of it or something, it's way cooler when you actually have the room, instead of say the slide out rooms, which we do, which is cool. But I think this is, hopefully people would agree with me, it's like one level even cooler when you get to see the postman being inside the post office instead of being
Oh,
a
absolutely.
separate display. And even
Especially the mail office, especially that the way that one swings open and is
yeah.
still like in the build is so impressive.
And one thing I don't know if it was communicated at all in the instruction, the half of the roof of the workshop is also supposed to be removable so that you can put Faith inside more easily. Because I think in the instruction you kind of built the roof into it, and there wasn't any instruction saying that, oh, you can actually plop half of the roof off. And then another thing I try to address is actually a lot of people always commenting on how do they get from the first floor to the second floor in Ninjago City. So I made sure that in this set, every location you see, there is a way of access, whether by the stone steps or the ladders, yeah, or the staircase here. You always have a way to reach the different levels, which hopefully fans would appreciate. And actually the same thing with the Loyalist hideout, you can also take off the top of it for easier access, which again, I'm not sure how well communicated that is. I think that's all I have to say about the model. Let's go into the minifigures. Let's go into good stuff. So regarding your questions, right? There are some of them that I put in. For instance, the workshop I put in so that no one can take Face off the list. Because actually of all the minifigures, there are 3 of them that remains there during the whole development. I actually messed up my introduction. I just start by saying that this minifigure lineup you see here, it has been changing so many times. It's the most changes I've ever had with the minifigure lineup in a single set. I think there are at least like 15 different versions of what could be in this set during the whole development. But the 3 minifigures that stayed around during the whole time was the Time Twins and Faith. And I really wanted Faith because I'm a huge fan of Hunted. I've been wanting the full face since the time of Hunted being revealed. So I was like, this is a chance. I want her. I don't want anyone to take her away from the model. So I designed the workup specifically for her. And I'm like, my hands are tied, guys. It's in the model. She has to be there. The post office is not so much of that. I can actually explain it while explaining the rest of the minifigure lineup. If you go from, so I lined them up in the sense of what's most less interesting on this end. It's a big set, of course. We still need some filler minifigures. And also
Not that many though. There's what, 2? And one I wouldn't even consider a filler minifigure.
I guess these 2 would be the filler minifigure,
right?
They're
the only ones without any new
Carpenter
pieces.
And yeah. So when I was designing this, I was getting super excited, right? Every day I go to work and I just go to the actually, speaking of which, I want to take the chance to give a massive shout out to the entire graphics team. Mike Miller.
I lost you for a second there. Would you mind repeating?
Yeah, I will repeat. I want to take the chance to give a massive shout out to the graphics team. Mike Miller, Nathan, Renato, and Francesca. There are 5 of them. Usually on any LEGO sets, we have 1 graphics designer working with the model. This thing really took a whole town of people to make this happen. But specifically, I really want to give a shout out to them because they really indulged me throughout the entire process. I would just go to that desk every morning and just with new ideas that I thought of while I woke up from in the morning. Can we do this character instead? Can we do this reference instead of that one? And they have been super helpful. They accommodated me in any ways possible. And without them working with me, I don't think we'll end up with this minifigure layout. And of course, I mean, they also did all the fantastic graphic work on them. So huge shout out to them. But I lost track of what I was saying earlier. When we first started with this model, I think I mentioned it to you already off camera, that I was thinking this has to have some kind of record-breaking thing. And I already know for a fact that this would not break the record in terms of piece count. And I guess dimensions is hard to tell, like how do you measure it. But with the price point and budget I was given, I know for a fact it wouldn't have more pieces than Ninjago City Markets. So I thought the next thing you can challenge is probably the minifigure lineup. So right from the get-go, I already have this idea of, first off, I want to make sure that we have a really, really good minifigure lineup. I know for a fact that a lot of fans are buying this. I mean, of course, the model has to be cool as well, but a lot of the selling point of these D2C is always the minifigures. So I really want to make sure that we deliver on that end. And at some point, I was thinking to myself, I want, like, in the beginning, the first time when we sat down to have our kickoff meeting for the graphics on this model, I remember we have like maybe 5 characters we came up with that would be made for this set specifically. And at the time we looked at it and was like, yeah, this sounds perfectly right. Like this is usually the amount of like exclusive, exciting characters we'll do for D2C at this price point. People are gonna love it. This is gonna be great. To sit here and look at this 23 minifigures now, and over half of them is specifically made for this set. It's the wildest dream come true, even for me. Like I still can't believe we actually pull that off.
Me neither. I'm blown away by this minifigure selection.
But when we start getting into that process of like adding more character, at some point I just thought to myself, I want to make sure that this minifigure lineup, if it ever get leaked, no one would even believe that is real because it's so good. And I think from what I see, it kind of worked. People were questioning it. But one thing I did is actually, I don't know if you noticed when you build a model, there's actually very few color changes in the elements. If you compare it to any Ninjago city, usually there's like a lot of crazy new crazy elements and new colors. But in this set, you only get the black frocks for 22 times, which I think is still pretty cool. And then you get these the front gate, the arch in sand green.
Yes.
And then of course my
yes, of course.
my favorite canopy in dark green. I actually thought someone's gonna stop me this time, but no one said anything, so I just ran with it.
I mean, the other one wasn't you, but there's 2 color changes on that part this year.
But yeah, I was really excited too, and also because I think dark green is such a color that you wouldn't really get a chance to color change this piece in for any other Ninjago model. So I'm glad I find a chance to check that off my list. But the reason why is that I basically struck a deal with the graphics team, and I said, what if I use as little as possible frames on the model and I push all the frames into the minifigure lineup? Can we do that? And well, we can. So that's partly why we managed to pull off this incredibly stacked minifigure lineup. Is me just going through the model over and over and making sure that I'm not doing unnecessary color change. Is there like other ways I can build this? I would do that. If there's other colors I can use, I would use that. I just make it to bare minimum, and then I put all the budget into the minifigures.
Incredibly impressive. I will say on the minifigures too, it's like each of them seems to be so efficiently designed too, where we have so many new face prints, new torso prints, but like anything that didn't need one didn't get. Well, like it feels like the prints were perfectly placed in all the right spots. Like the big one is Saunders and Krux using the same reversible head. I think is a really smart thing to do.
That's the second part to the solution, or like my method, is that I actually spend way too much time on figuring out the figures as well. I would almost say I think I put as much effort in the figures as I have on, on the model, because first off, what I did is I have been looping the selection for like so many times, which is why I said earlier there's like 15 different versions of it, and I promise, I guarantee as a fan myself, this is the best version out of the 15. Like you're not being robbed of anything. All the other characters that wasn't here is usually characters where I ended up thinking about it and be like, they could just appear in another Ninjago series. They don't need to be specifically in this set. So
Yeah.
you're not missing out on anything. I promise you that. This is like the best we can offer. But there was a lot of back and forth. It's like playing with the puzzle where I'm like, okay, this character would need this and this deco or like this accessory or this hairpiece for it to happen. But actually, this other character would need less. So if you do this guy instead, you can do 2 other characters out of it. And there's like all this shifting around to make sure that, as you said, it's the most efficient use to make sure that every single character in here is making the most out of our budget of the number of frames. And at the same time, I also spend a lot of time just scrolling through the element library to make sure if there's another team who happens to make a color change of a certain wig that we need, or like they span a frame already to save a certain element that we can use for a certain character, I also take that into account and just make sure that when this comes together, there's literally no other way to make it any better than this. Going back to the minifigures themselves, I think I can just start from this end of the lineup. We actually have Chuck the Carpenter, and I don't know if you know, but this is actually a reference.
Oh, it is.
It is. So when I was going crazy in the office and was like, can we do this character? Can we do that character? My boss came over and was like, Lee, I know you're very excited, and this is cool that you have all these named characters, but please remember the set is called the Oldtown. You need some town people to make sense of this. Like, you can't just have ninja and villains everywhere. Then you kind of take away the play of it as well. So I thought to myself, okay, fine. I'll dial back a little bit and put some town people in. But then I thought, what's stopping me from making even the town people named characters, or at least interesting in some ways, right? So for instance, Chuck the Carpenter, I need the Carpenter because I need the Carpenter shop to do the reference of the Wu's horse carriage. That was like one of the first thing I nailed down. I was like, I want a reference to the Wu's horse carriage as a blueprint in a Carpenter shop. So I need a Carpenter. And Chuck is actually one of Young's student, the ghost student in Day of the Departed,
right.
where Cole was fighting, and he was like, I don't know what you call, I'll just call you Chuck. The reason why he is a Carpenter is because Tommy Andresen actually wrote Way of the Departed, this semi-canonical novel, on his social media, where he brought back the character Chuck in a different name, because of course he has an actual name. Chuck is just the nickname that Cole gave him. But in that novel, he mentioned that Chuck is like the best carpenter in the town. So I thought that would be cool to make Chuck actually Chuck the Carpenter. And this is, I mean, I'm not going to gloss over the fact that all these pieces are existing pieces. It's a minifigure you can already make at home. But the combination of them, like the hairstyle, is also chosen with reference to the scene when all the ghost students become human again. You see like a bunch of students, and they never specify which one is Chuck, right? But I go into the novel and I read, in the novel, Tommy actually described he has pale brown hair. He also mentioned he has a ponytail, but no one in that scene has a ponytail, so I kind of brushed that off. But at least I picked the one with the brown hair from the scene. So if you go back to the scene when the student becomes human again, there's one guy that looked like this, and I just assume he is Chuck. And I mean, he is Chuck now. It's gonna be canonical, I guess, in a way.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's probably like
Wow.
one of my favorite reference, because again, like those spinner weapons in the blacksmith shop, it's so out there, it's so subtle. I don't think a lot of
That's
people
much
would
more subtle
get
than
it.
the weapons in the blacksmith shop, I feel like.
Yeah.
That's
And then Mystake is another good example. I need a tea vendor, and I thought to myself, why can't it be Mystake? At least that would be super cool, right? And the head for Mystake is new. We made it specifically for her because we look over, like, at first when I talked to the graphics designer, they were like, there's no way we don't have a generic old lady face that would fit here. But I was like, I looked through it. There's literally none
We
of them.
don't, and
Like,
that's
not even the existing Mystake minifigure from Docs looks like Mystake.
No, and that's
Um,
that was a very similar case to Blacksmith Kai for me, where it was
yeah,
like it 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 was that feeling of like they've checked that box, so we're never going to
yeah.
get this again, but it doesn't look
I know
anything
the
like the
torso
character it's
is
supposed to
again,
be. So
the torso is not accurate, but I think it's close enough. And we were
mhm,
again debating that like the accurate one is just like a casual outfit. How
right.
much does it make sense to do that over the other cool characters, right? So I
And
hope,
the Doc's torso is pretty accurate, so you could just put this face on the Doc's
yeah.
torso, and then you get a
I think that one is
pretty.
still in the wrong color because it's in tan, right? In the show, it's actually light
I
gray,
think it depends
but
on the
with
season. I
that
think some
pattern.
seasons it's light gray, some seasons it's tan. Remember
Yeah,
correctly.
but
I was looking that
either
up
way,
the other day.
I think personally this torso looks close enough that maybe she
Yes.
just have a different outfit. But that's another example where I try to make sure that even the town people, the filler characters, is fun. And the same thing with the administration agent. Again, it's all existing pieces. Not gonna
Mhm.
gloss over that, but just by putting it together and giving it a name, at least is something like it's a character.
Yes.
And then, as you may see on the box front, I also suggested that storyline of her chasing the time twins around because they're the time travelers, which I think actually adds to the play and the story. Of course, it's not necessarily going to happen in the show. I don't know, but you know, when you have the set and we play with it, you get characters that can interact with each other, which is also another thing I consider when I'm deciding which character goes into it. And then on top of that, there's also the thinking of making sure that the whole lineup, you have some from like the super early seasons, you have some from the middle stuff, the Wild Bring and the only trilogy, and then you also have a little bit of Dragons Rising here, so that you really feel like, regardless whether it's the model or the minifigure lineup, they celebrate the whole 15 years. And then we have the two loyalists, which I already explained, they are actually going to be in the Oldtown, so they have to be there. And then the postman is another like easy figure to do as a town folk, right? Because he is a town folk.
Mhm.
But I think he's also cool enough because he is, I would say he's still like a fan wanted character in some way, and he only appeared in the Temple of Jitsu, which is like what 9 years ago. And it's pretty exclusive. But even then, we go in and I said to the graphics guy, you know, instead of doing a complete remake of that same figure, what if we make him? I don't know if you noticed, but this is actually not the same character.
Oh,
It's
really?
the mailman without the mustache, which is the mailman from the Wild Ring era. So even if you have the Temple of Jitsu, it's
I
not the
didn't
same.
realize that.
And to make it
So
even
funny.
better, I don't know if you noticed, but that's the face of Warden Noble. So by making this one hat,
Oh,
I would love to see some fans put it on the police torso, and then
oh
you can have
wow. Because
Warden Noble as
I've been
well.
thinking recently of like named characters from specifically Master of Spinjitzu, because once you get past them, there's a lot. But Master of Spinjitzu we don't have still, and Warden Noble was one I thought of, but
Yeah, so
that
you
this
can
kind of
make him
fills
now.
that.
Like stuff like
That's
this,
awesome,
we
actually.
really go in and try to make sure that, again, like you said, we're making the most out of everything we have. Um, yeah, so yeah, even with the mailman, we're trying to make sure that we're making the most out of that one uh face we make for him, and we also make sure that his expression is slightly different than the one in the Temple of Jitsu, and you can see that same thing going on with all the characters, but I'll go into that. Next one is Harumi. This is actually one that fans have influenced the decision, because when I was working on this model, is right where you guys start reviewing the workshops, and there was a
Mhm.
comment I saw where a fan said, "Well, finally we got all the versions of Harumi out there." And then I thought to myself, "No, we haven't. We haven't got the Kabuki Harumi." And then I thought, wait, it's also the It's Okay, She's With Us Harumi that we never got. And I looked it up and I was like, they actually have the same torso. So
Uh-huh.
we can actually make a minifigure that checks off two boxes with Harumi. And that's where this
I
one
did
came
like
in.
when I opened it, I don't know if I said it in my video or if I just thought it, but
Yeah,
I did notice that it's the "It's okay, she's with us" face, and I was like, I
yeah,
wonder if that's the literal expression, because like it
it,
is
it
just a
is.
happy Harumi, which we don't have, but
Yes,
it's
but
that
I
scene specifically.
specifically
It's
asked the graphics designer to copy the expression from that scene and make sure that she has like the eyebrows is like slightly up so that it's like she
uh-huh.
has this apologizing look to it. But it's also generic enough that you can still put it on other Harumi. I think it's just cool in general, like you said, to have like a Harumi that's not angry and
Mhm.
aggressive, but with the red eyes paint, and then of course the Kabuki one with the extra hood. I think the graphics designer also did a really nice job there. And I hope fans will be excited for that. And I think by now we actually have checked off every grown-up Harumi at least. I know there's the kid
Well,
one.
he does put her hood on in that one scene in the Sons of Garmadon, so we don't have
Fair,
the hood
fair
up
enough.
yet.
We don't have that one yet. Maybe in 20th anniversary. Let's see. Um, and then the Yang Time twins is like the thing that I insist that they have to be there. Is like the characters I have in mind right away when I was assigned a task. I was like, I'm gonna bring the Time Twins back because regardless of what people think about the season, I love the
Mhm.
Hands of Time as villains. I think they are
Yes.
very cool, and it's very sad that they are locked behind that one set from all the way back then.
Mhm.
We never got them again. So I was like, if I have the chance, I want to bring the Time Twins back in some form or way. The way I go around it is actually by proposing the collectible minifigures for the anniversary. Um, so for all the fans out there who actually wanted 6 Golden Ninja and Golden Wool again, I apologize. It was my fault. But I really campaigned hard in the office to make sure that we have the old Elemental Master as the collectible. I mean, I was half joking when I said that part of the reason is because I want to bring the Time Twins back. Because for me, it's just really cool to get them as
Mhm.
collectible minifigures than just having another ninja variant. I was asked, do you really think these nameless characters in the flashback for like 2 seconds are cooler than the Golden Ninja for the fans? And I said, to hardcore fans, I think their mind would melt if they see these as physical minifigures. And I hope I'm right. I don't know.
Yes, oh,
Um,
absolutely. These
and
three especially are. I mean, I just literally during this interview, I put up the review of the anniversary display, and I
yeah,
just that the Lightning minifigure, just seeing that in person is surreal because I've known that design since what 2015, and
yeah,
like I never thought that would ever happen.
yeah. It's also one of those things where the way I see it, there is literally no other chance would have got them anywhere else. Even in the wildest chance of us saying, "Oh, we're gonna make a legacy set of Hands of Time," or like
Mm,
the flashback scene of Serpentine War, right? With a regular playset, how many minifigures, like how many new exclusive minifigures can you put in it? Maybe
right.
3 or 4 max. You would never get all of them, and you would always have 2 spots taken by Yang Wu and Garmadon, I suppose,
Mhm.
with whichever flashback scene you take. So the way I see it, this is the perfect chance. This is the only chance we would ever get them. It wouldn't make sense in any other set. So much so that I forgot if I told you about it already. But when you asked me back then about the decision of putting Ray and Maya in it, is actually part
Mhm.
of my deal with the graphics team because when I pitched it, I said, oh, what if I put Ray and Maya in the blacksmith shop as well? Then you get like 2 more spots to do 2 more exclusive characters on the display, and you can actually get more of an actual alliance. I know it's still not the full alliance, but at least you have 7 of them and more to populate. And
Mhm.
um, even though I have no budget at all, I was so over budget in the file. I was like, I will make it happen. Just say yes to this idea of making them the collectible. I'll figure a way out. And that's also addressed the questions that I saw a lot of people asking why Ray and Mai is not in the Seabound suit
Mhm.
because I do agree that the Maya C-band suit is way more interesting than having another one that looks just like the Hands of Time one. But for my grand plan to work, they have to be the Serpentine War version, and that is why they are that. And then I try to ease them into this whole idea of doing this, and then I say, hey, you know what? Actually, the Time Twins was also part of the Alliance until they betray them. So we technically can also have them, and we should have the young version of them, and we can throw them into the D2C. And that's how I basically work their way into this set. The young Crux was available in the Bricktober pack, which is super hard to get. So I think regardless of that, it's still cool to get a version of him anyways. But also, if you look closer to that figure, they actually reused the legs from the main set Crux. So they still have like those dangling bits from all the gadgets in their modern day version.
Yeah.
And this time around, we actually made sure that we don't have any of those gadgets on both of them. So this is like proper young version of them. It's not just like, oh, we just did the same thing and we called them the young version. And they're both having the bright red, because if you look at the old figures, the Crux one actually have dark red to show that time has passed. And one may argue that Acronix never got old, so what's the difference between young Acronix and old Acronix? Well, first off, the gadgets on his torso is
he doesn't
gone.
have his iPod.
But yes, that's also something I really want to point out, because the original figure has that thing on the face that was not in the show in the flashback. And this time around, you actually get with face print without that, and you have two expressions for him as well. And for young Crux, we also deliberately picked the expression that is different from the Bricktober one. So even if you get that one, it's still somewhat different. They do have a shared torso and leg printing, and that was something that I hope no one is too offended by. But once again, it's one of those things where we originally did that and we take all the gadgets out and then realize the outfit looks so similar. Like at that point, it doesn't really make sense to make two sets of things and spend double the budget and take anyone from the lineup out. So the graphics designer actually redesigned it a little bit so that the torso is somewhat symmetrical, and then we just keep the arms being the different colors, which still costs us something, but I think that part is too important to omit. So we're like, let's stick with the arm, keep that. But for the rest, we redesigned it a little bit so that it looks right on both sides. And then, of course, as you mentioned already, we also thought of the idea of sharing a head between him and Dr. Saunders, which also helped with making this whole thing happen. I hope people really, really appreciate the leg decal on Dr. Saunders, because I really fought for that. The longest time they were like, "Are you sure you need the leg torso? Like, it's just part of his coat." I'm like, no, he needs it. It just looks different without the leg. And he's also actually a key element to resolve the whole narrative of the set, because I wanted to do all the references. Actually, speaking of that, I want to get off track a little bit. With the references, I forgot if I mentioned already, but I try to make sure that there's a reference to at least one reference per season in this set. So that was also a lot of puzzle work to do on the side. When I was briefing the graphics designer, I was actually rewatching a lot of the episodes, but I still wish I did the rewatch, like the actual proper rewatch that I am doing now before I work on this model, because now as I rewatch the show, like literally every episode, I thought of so many more cool stuff I would love to put in this set. So
You got a lot in there.
I guess
think you
I'll
did
still
a
have
pretty
to
good
wait
job.
for another 5 years for that to happen. But my point is actually, with the reference in this set, I also try to approach them slightly differently from what we'll do with Ninjago City, where a lot of the times it's more meta, like it's a movie poster with this set in the background, right? But in here, I think I try to make sure that the majority of the sticker references are actually like in-universe relics, like the green the green ninja scroll.
That
Like
one is one of my favorites.
the
Zane's
dragon,
like
the dragon
missing
form,
poster.
Yeah. Yeah, the missing poster, the wanted poster for Wildfire, Kai and Nia,
Yes.
like stuff like this. I hope it feels different, and I hope people notice
Oh,
that.
absolutely. No, it's
Um,
like because I come from I got my start doing Lego photography on Instagram, right? When I was
yeah,
like 14 years old. That's where Bricks by Mine began. And these are the
nice.
kind of things that like I would have loved to have because these are like fun accessories to pose with the minifigures, right?
Yeah,
Like
and
these
for
are a
instance,
lot.
my personal favorite reference of the entire set is the Jack the Rabbit book from the first season when Wu was reading to Lloyd.
Yes.
And it was also funny because I think Tommy once mentioned that Harumi trusts Pyther in Crystalized because she hasn't read that book. So you have the chance to fix history. She can actually now read it. You'll learn not to trust a snake. Um, but yeah, and also regarding the stickers, right? I also want to address the fact that yes, there are a lot of stickers. I know that. Um, it would be, of course, very nice if everything is a deco in the ideal world, but then you probably won't get these.
Mhm.
So going in, I already know for a fact it's gonna have a lot of stickers, but the way I see it, I talked to the graphics designer and said, can we at least make sure that we make all the stickers manageable? Like, if you look across the sticker sheet, they're all like smaller ones. They're always
Mhm.
like 2x6. I guess there's this,
Yes.
but like 1x3, 1x2, 2x3. Like, I hope that when you're building the set, the sticker never really takes away too much from the building experience. I mean, of course, there's also like the distribution of them that I always try to make sure there's not like a very sticker intensive area. It's a very
Mhm.
long build. I mean, even when I was building it in the office, it took me like 2 days to finish building this. So
Yes.
I hope I've spread it out enough that you never feel like the stickers are taking away. Is there no stickers that would require you to spend 15 minutes to align it and make sure it doesn't have like air bubbles in it?
Yes.
The bigger one is of course the graffiti one in here. But even here we try to make it freeform so that the edges don't have to actually align with the inner wall, which is
Mhm.
very difficult to do. Of course, you still want to make it somewhat parallel to the wall element, but at least there's not gonna be a way where you just accidentally messed it up and you have to look at it for the rest of your life and regret
Yes.
about your life choices. So I hope that's good enough. Um, I already can't remember why I said that. I was talking about Dr. Saunders, right? So he justified having all those relics because he's the museum guy, right? So
Mhm.
for me, his existence in the set ties everything together in a way and justify how I can make so many of the relics in the set. Um, he doesn't have the beard, but the beard piece doesn't exist. So
Yes.
it's the one of those weird product from the animation studio that we just sadly do not have. Of course, you can argue, can you make a new element for it? Well, the answer is we don't have that frame for just that one
Yeah.
minifigure. So I hope people are not too upset that it's just the deco beard. We actually spent a lot of time doing different renditions of his beard on this particular minifigure because we really want to make sure that it captures that look, even though it's obviously not the same as having that
Mhm.
whole piece, but just one of those things. And then Faith, as I said, is one figure that I wanted since day one. I built something to keep her in so that no one can take her away. At some point, we did talk about, what if we just get her head and then she has like a generic torso
Mhm.
so that we can do something else. But then we looked at some options, and in the end, the graphics team and I agree that it just kind of looks lame and looks like we're chipping out.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'm
the
impressed
figure
by
is
like
also it's old enough. I think when fans get this, they may not necessarily have the original torso around.
yeah.
So it's cool to just get the whole figure. Um, they slightly redesigned it, especially with the hip piece being more of a belt instead of the whole orange part.
Mhm.
But that's just one of those, what we do when we modernize a character.
It's very impressive how close, because I was comparing it to the original when I first built
Yeah.
it, and it feels straight out of 2018. Like, but it while still, of course, being a distinctly new design. Like,
Yeah.
very impressive.
And then of course the one that you probably want me to talk about the most, Dr.
Uh-huh.
Julien. First off, I will let you know we are this close from not getting him.
Really?
Actually, the very, very last minifigure that is agreed to be in the minifigure lineup.
Really?
The funny thing is, as I said, when I was designing this, you guys were reviewing the workshops.
Mhm.
And I think in your review and in a lot of people's review, you were all speculating what that sticker means, right? Some
Yes.
people think it means he's coming in the next D2C. Some people, I think you actually said you think that means we'll never get the minifigure of
Yeah,
him.
that was to
And
say
the
we
way
can't
we
do this,
addressed
but
that
here is your
is there.
reference.
At that point, he was not in the set. So I have to burst the bubble. There was no implication there in the sticker sheet at all. It was just like we want some reference for Zane because that's his apartment, and of course Dr. Julien is his dad, so it makes sense for his picture to be there. But it's funny to think about that. And while I was working on this, while you guys are speculating, I'm like, actually that has like no, he wasn't there. But in the last minute, I managed to convince the right people that he should be here, because I think one of the reasons why it's so difficult to get him in, right, is of course, I think some other designers answered this before, because to a fan, he's a really cool character. But for general kids and general LEGO fans, he's an old scientist.
Yeah,
It's
he's
like,
just an old man.
it doesn't
And I
look
even
like a Ninjago character at all, right? And then
when
the
we were
other thing,
speculating about the anniversary figures, I
yeah,
was talking to Chris, and he was convinced that it was just going to be like what Star Wars did, or it's just like random old characters
yeah,
plopped. And he's like, Dr. Julian's going to be in it, and I'm like, that's not like if you have a 7+ set, it's like collect this old man. No one's going
yeah,
to buy that set. So.
yeah. And another reason why he's so hard to get in any set is because he is dead in the show, right?
Yes.
I mean, with Ninjago City, we always put characters in without considering much of the timeline and stuff. But even then, there's like this unwritten rules of they always kind of have to be alive and kicking around in the city, so that it makes sense to show them here, and at least they have some relevance to the show. So to me, this set, the Oldtown that exists in the vacuum of time, is the one chance we can make him. If we miss this chance, I don't know when or will we ever get him, right? So he was the very, very last minifigure in this lineup that I was like, guys, I think we really should do him. Like, this is the right time, this is the right chance to do him. He doesn't have like prints, as you can see. I tried, but at that point it was like, do you want Dr. Julien without like print, or do you want no Dr. Julien at all?
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I
And I
hope
will say,
this is the
for what
right
it's
call.
worth, yeah, and I think there's leg prints that exist that I think, like the scientist from the Ninjago movie, the one in the CMF. I think you just throw those legs on
I
here and
hope.
he'll
I
look
haven't
pretty
looked at
close.
it. But yeah, I hope people wouldn't be too offended by that. Another thing I want to address is the black parrot, because I think I can foresee some fans would be upset and be like, "Oh, they replaced the falcon with a parrot. It's not even the same bird. What are they thinking?" Well, here's what I was thinking. This is the last minifigure I put in. Of course, the first thing I look is if the falcon piece is around. It's not around when I have to lock the model. And then I saw the parrot because they're all grouped in the animal drawers, right? And I was like, actually, it's kind of a fun accessory to just throw in there as like a reference. In my head, it doesn't necessarily even have to be the falcon. It could be like a prototype he's working on.
Yeah.
And that's why I put it in. I hope no one is offended by that.
I actually, so you'll see it when I upload my unboxing video, but I actually loved that because when I was a kid, this is the part I used to be the Falcon. It was in gray, but like, because it was before the Falcon existed back in, because we got the official part in 2014, or like in the Zane helicopter. But yeah, I just had the gray parrot, and that's what I used to be the Falcon when I played as a kid.
That's
So
very cool.
it very much felt like a callback to that.
But yeah, that's why I used that. again, if that was the Falcon, I would 100% put a Falcon in, but it was not there. And then Zane was is not exclusive to this set, but I actually gave the input for his secondary face and made sure that is the face he has when he sacrificed himself battling the
Yes.
Overlord, because I looked at all the Zane face we had before and all the cyborg one, like the half face one, he always have like a very calm face. And I was like,
Mhm.
what would be a cool inclusion for the secondary face would actually be one that can be used for that sacrifice scene. So
I'm curious.
yes.
Uh, did it take any pushing to get the original Zane like face features? Because I think back to like first time
Well,
we got Legacy,
it
when
was
we had
like
young Lloyd,
the
he got a
graphics
new
the
like.
graphics guys come over and ask me, and he was like, how offended do you think people will be if we just put the titanium head in? And I was like, I think people were really upset. And then they're like, okay, let's do a new head. Let's do a human face thing then.
But it
It-
wasn't like specifically like the original design versus like the movie style, like the Sons of
yeah,
Garmadon style
there
human
was
head.
no maybe that was like an experiment on doing that, and then we look at it and we're just like, no, this doesn't look right. Let's just
Yeah.
actually stick to the human face from the original
I think
show.
that's all because I think back to like the Legacy Bounty that had that young Lloyd, which had a new face, but it was
Yeah.
it was young Lloyd with the green eyes.
Yes.
So to me, that was I always took it as like there's some embargo on you can't use the old faces anymore. So that's it really
No.
surprised, and I'm very happy to see it. But it very
Yeah.
much surprised me to see the old design come back.
At least we didn't face any, like, no one stopped us this time. I
I
don't
mean
know back
that's
then.
great to
I
hear.
wasn't working
It's
here back then.
it's a very very cool minifigure.
Yeah, and then we have the rest of Ninja. This is also something that I really want to include, is like the whole team here. So going back to that whole thing when I want this to be the complete set, the complete experience. If this is the one 15th anniversary legacy you get everyone, every character. It is a bit of a pity that I didn't manage to afford every single one with a hood. So at the end, I have to take out 2 hoods to make everything within budget. You might question why I put a hood for Jay, even though he technically has the flyer helmet. So if anything, I could have put a hood for Kai or Cole. And actually, originally I have a hood for Kai, I think, yeah. And then I switch it last minute. My reasoning is because you actually get the extra hood from the blacksmith shop.
Yep,
And for
I
Cole,
had
you
that
get
thought.
the poly back.
Yep.
So technically, I mean, I know again the blacksmith shop is not the cheapest price point, but still there are other options. But with Jay, the only one you have is the figure display that comes with that one. At least in this
Mhm.
launch, I don't know anything about the future, but at that
We know
time I
there's
just
at least
thought,
one more set that we've not seen because that last anniversary figure has
yeah,
to be somewhere.
but we don't
But
know if he's in there. But it is in the January launch stuff. Like, to me, I hope it makes sense that at least there's some options to what set you can buy if you just want that.
Mhm.
And that's why I did that. And I think it's also somewhat makes sense that Kai and Nia both have the hair
Mhm.
as they are the sibling. Jay, I'm really excited with the flyer build. Like, that's also
It's so
something that
cool.
I
I
really
love this
want to
so much.
reference. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with the build. And I also made sure that he can actually he can actually stand on his own, because the back has to stand long enough for the feet, so you can actually pose him around. And you can actually have him grabbing onto the roof here with the claw, so that he's like flying.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
And it's also, again, one of those things where I'm like, it's a way to make the minifigure line even cooler, right? Like, yes, it's the same J, but what if it's Flyer J with the flyer? Then at least it's somewhat different and is somewhat exclusive to this set. And then Garmadon is actually something that was requested by the marketing team, because they really wanted some like pilot season characters as a minifigure, and we look across the board, and it's like it feels like we could do maybe 1 or 2 more here. And we also realized there's no Garmadon anywhere in the lineup. So they were like, can you somehow find a way to put like the pilot season Garmadon specifically into the Oldtown, because like there's no rule here at that point. We have like whatever characters in there. And I was like, yeah, cool, I guess. But to be honest, at first I was on the fence about it because he's not the coolest character. Like it's not a very special minifigure to me. We have the perfect replica already, sort of, in the first Legacy wave, and like the pilot season Garmadon himself is not that interesting because he's a regular minifigure. He doesn't even have 4 arms, right?
Yeah.
But then I thought, you know what would make it fun is to do some fun Garmadon faces that we have never got before. So for the first time, this Garmadon actually has 2-sided face, and again, I handpicked these 2 expressions. The first one is the evil green, which really surprised me that we actually never had a face that looks like this, because I think this is very in character of like especially the early seasons Garmadon, where he always green evilly, but the original one looks more like he's angry or he's like very aggressive. And the movie one, he has a very goofy smile because he's goofy in the show. So I hope this one is exciting to get. And then the secondary face is like the mouth closed one, which is also an expression you see a lot on screen. But in particular, I cannot wait to see someone put this on Emperor Garmadon's head. Because this is, to me, the perfect expression for that figure, for the only trilogy version of him. So I hope at least, like with this one, even though the rest of it is a rather plain minifigure, I mean, he doesn't have leg print, but that's like staying true to the actual pilot season Garmadon. At least the head hopefully makes him somewhat interesting. And then
absolutely. I mean, that again, tying back to like utilizing budget in the best way possible. I saw that, and I fully expected it to just be that same original Legacy Garmadon, because I know that one still comes in magazines and stuff, so I think it's still around. So I was
still
like,
around.
I thought this was just going to be the same exact minifigure, but that face print makes it so interesting, because we've had quite a few Garmadons, but we've never, like, all of our expressive faces come from movie, which they work, but that's a different character. That's not
they're
the
always
Garmadon we
a
know
bit
from the show.
like more cartoonish.
Exactly. So these are great. These, like, I didn't know how much I wanted these until I got them. Like, this is fantastic.
I think it also feels a bit like sometimes all these fan-made custom figures that has like an expression pack to it, right? I think when I was going through the lineup with some of the characters, I was also trying to think in that direction, like, can we at least make it like a different expression so that when people get it is a cool addition to the existing thing. And then of course, last but not least, we have these 3 minifigures. I'm really excited for this. I think most people would, I don't know if I'm right about this, but I assume people would assume that we would just use a generic face for Yang Wu because he has a very generic face. But we actually, I specifically said like we can't, because there is no generic face that looks like Yang Wu apart from the one in the show. He has to be a special head, and to make that that frame worth the frame, I specifically asked for the secondary expression that is taken straight out from the screen of Battle Between Brothers.
So cool.
So that you can pair it up with the evil young Garmadon, which again is another figure that we could have just gone for a generic city face or something, but I was like, these 2, they are too important. It's like it would worth the frame, trust me, to make one that is special for them and then have a secondary face that is from Battle Between Brothers. One thing I really want to address is the Yang Wu torso, because I can already see people commenting, why is it dark tan? I don't know if you had that question in mind.
I mean, what I assumed is like the original, like the actual screen accurate torso we have, and then we have a legacy version of it. So this just felt new and interesting. So I was happy to see it.
That is part of the argument, and that is also like one of the reasons we ended up going with it. Second reason for it is actually because when we put the 3 minifigures next to each other, you can see we already have a lot of gray details on the First Spinjitzu Master. And we're looking at it, and it feels like there are two like gray suits in a row. And with the Dark 10, it just feels slightly more special, and the three of them looks right together. But none of these reasons are the actual reasons. They are more like things that I ended up being convinced this is the right thing to do. The main reason is I sent the screenshot from the Serpentine War flashback to the graphics team when we talk about the collectibles, and I was like, these are the versions we want to make. And then they came back with this, and I was like, no, Wu's suit is gray. I'm pretty sure. Like you can see in any other flashback scene is light gray or dark gray. I can't remember which shade of gray, but it's gray. It's not dark 10. And then they were like, no. In that scene you sent us, the Serpentine War flashback, is dark gray. It's clearly dark. It's clearly dark 10. I'm like, no way. And we spent the time actually sitting down and like doing like screenshot and like dragging the pixels to compare to like other elements in that scene that are gray. And I would say it does look like it's not gray. Like it does look closer to his hair color than like the decorations on the Master of Earth or like the Master of Shadow. I think she has dark gray legs. So at that point I was like, okay, I guess, but I feel like the gray one is still like a safer bet because we know for sure that's canonical. And then what pushed me over the line was we were looking for references for from the Garmadon comics. As you might notice, some stickers actually reference that. And in the Garmadon comics, there is also a frame showing the flashback scene from the Serpentine War in that exact location. And in that one, he clearly has like dark 10 or like goldenish color on the rope instead, which I argue is probably more like what they do with comic books when they limit the color, like number of colors on the page. But at least that convinced me that there is a version of it somewhere out there that this minifigure could be representing. And then of course the reasoning you already said, because we technically already have the gray one. Let me drink a little bit more. We technically already have that. So, and it's not that long ago, and it is pretty perfect. I know the little end of the ribbon, or like what do you call that? Like the rope is on the side instead of in the center as these ones are, which are more accurate to the original version. But still, it's close enough, and you can argue you also get that rope from the very original Wu figure. Yeah. So in the end, I was like, okay, I guess you guys make sense. Let's go with this. And also, with the hair color, it's the same thing, because in any other scene you see Wu, his color is clearly lighter tan.
Yeah.
But in that one scene, it looks like it's darker tan. Again, I was debating with them, but then we go to Ninjago Wiki, and that figure is specifically set as it is like a variant of Wu with darker hair. So that's why we ended up with the darker tan. I just want to make sure that, like, you guys know we're not just like messing around and just like, oh, this looks like dark tan to us. There's actually a lot of discussion going into it to make sure that there's a reason behind it, even though at first glance it looks like, why did they do that? And then I also want to talk a little bit about the First Spinjitzu Master. This is a character that we were actually not 100% sure about doing in the first place, but I think it makes sense. Again, it's one of those characters like, is there going to be another chance to make him or not? We're not sure. And then also having 3 figures as like a display piece is also, I think it looks much nicer than just 2 of them.
Yeah.
And another thing is that I'm really, really happy that, I don't know if you noticed, but both on the box art and in the instruction, you never see his face.
Yes, correct. I know that because I was trying to get a peek beforehand when I was building, but yeah, I could not until I finally got him out of the bag.
Shout out to the packaging people who again indulged me, and I was like, can we just bend his hand, like just bend the legs a little bit so that you don't see his face in every single image? And they're like, Okay, that sounds like a really fun thing to do for the fans. Let's do it. Um, uh, yeah, we looked at the First Spinjitzu Master on screen. There was again a lot of discussion on which face exactly should we pick because while we said we never seen his face, we actually have seen a bit of his
Yes.
face. In the end, we decided to go with the one that's probably just an animation error when you have a split second of seeing it when Garmadon got bitten by the Great Devourer. But we thought like technically that is the canonical one, right? That's the one
Yeah.
that you've seen on screen, and it also looks different enough from a beardless wool head, so that at least it feels somewhat special.
Yeah.
And then with the torso, there was also the discussion: do we want it to just be 1-to-1? Because in the show, it's just the reuse of that Wu Crew
Yes. The black
outfit.
training suit. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're like that's kind of lame, even if it's accurate. He is like the Grandmaster. He needs something more grand. So in the
Mhm.
end, the graphics team cooked up this new deco, which I think looks super cool. But at least
I
we
agree.
kept the back the same so that you can
Yes.
still post him with those scenes where you just see his back. Um, but yeah, I guess that's almost everything. I'm sure if I
Yeah.
think about it, there would be more things I can think of.
I have a million things I want to talk about, but we've been going for quite a long time now. Just in regards to the entire set, what are
Yeah.
your favorite references that you managed to sneak in, either in minifigures or in the actual build? Because there's quite a few, but I'm curious
I
what
think
your
in
favorites
terms
are.
of sticker, it's definitely the book because that's the one thing where I always have in the back of my mind. I said to myself, if I ever get the chance to work on the Ninjago D2C, I will make it happen. Um, in terms of build, I think is I don't know if you're gonna show it in the review, but it's whatever's buried under the steps.
Okay, yes, because there's two things that are buried in the set.
Yes,
The one on the yeah, I will
the
show it
one
in the
under the
review.
steps. Yeah.
Yes.
That one was also one that I was like, that is pretty funny.
That was quite. I when I got to that bag, I'm like, why is this hairpiece in here? And then I saw the other parts. I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I did also want to ask the colors of the two buildings. Is that to reference the Temple of Airjitsu?
No.
No,
I can
really.
only
Okay.
notice it now. As with all the models, colors is like the most tricky, like the trickiest
Yes.
thing to work with. Especially for a model like this, there's actually so much color discussion going into it of like, what if this part is actually white? What if it's tan? What if this part is
Mhm.
tan instead? This is just what we ended up with in the end. I never thought of it, but now that you said it, I guess it's a cool reference
Yeah,
in
it's
a
the
sense.
sand green sand blue with the the brown frames and
Yeah.
the black roofs. It's a very similar. I thought that was like a. I think it's cool. It feels like it calls back to the first D2C, even if that was
Yeah.
not.
There's also one more thing I want to address. I don't know how you feel about the connection point between the modules
Oh,
because
I
they're
love
loose,
it.
right?
Yes.
Okay, you love it. That's good
Yes.
because we had a very long debate over that. Um, well, like, should there at least be one technic pin, or like, should there be two technic pins, or should it be loose like this? And we
Hmm.
built like all the versions and we tried it out. In the end, we think this is the way to go because A, this model isn't the modules are not obvious. Like the breaking
Hmm.
point is so blend in. Um, when we tried with the version where there's actual technic pin connection, a lot of the guys who just built the model was like, I actually have no idea like where does it split, and
Hmm.
then they just start trying to pull like different parts, right, and then things
Yeah.
start falling off. So we established that it's not good, and then there's also the argument that when they are actually connected, some people might think that it suggests you can move the whole thing
Hmm.
together. So
Yes.
instead, we go for the other extreme in the end, which is the loose pin, and you just kind of slot it in. The other argument for that is also because I forgot if I mentioned this actually. Another reason that I pitched this idea, right, is that I really want to make sure this is a playset. Like,
Mhm.
to me, what makes Ninjago special is the play. It's still
Mhm.
primarily a play theme, and I want to make sure that this D2C for the anniversary, it doesn't feel like we're just making a big display piece. I want to make sure
Mhm.
that there is enough play in it. That's why there's so many minifigures, but there's also the reason why I wanted to make sure you can open it up. And when I was thinking about the modules, I think what I would do as a kid if I play with it is that I would actually constantly be changing the layout as I play. I
Yes.
try to access this, I would pull this open, and I want to play with just this module, I'll pull this out. If the connection is more permanent, then it becomes such a hassle to do that, and the pin may stick to one side of it and stick to the other side. There's just so much trouble to this. So I hope it's the right call. I do reckon that when you try to like rotate the whole thing around,
Yeah.
sometimes they start like sliding off, right? And in the end, we agree that if you build this set and if you are like, as the age mark suggests, 14 plus, you probably would be able to figure out like certain points where you grab it and you can
Mhm.
actually move it without it sliding off. And also, in the end of the day, it's more important to make sure that people transport this correctly instead
Yes.
of it being so connected that they just thought I can just lift this whole thing up.
Well, I guess just modularity in general. I do a very similar thing for my Ninjago cities. I don't use the pins that come with them
Oh,
because I always find it like, especially if there's like a little bit of height difference in the
yes.
table, trying to slam them together sometimes with how tall they are, and they're much more simple modules, can be a
Yeah.
lot more difficult. So yeah, this
So
is really
I
cool to
hope
see.
that's the right call. There's also the idea of actually, I can't remember if I mentioned, done so many talks on this model already. But another thing with the module system is also like, if you want to just display one part of it, you can as
Mhm.
well, right? Or if you want
Yes.
to display this part of it on this shelf and display that part of it on that shelf, you can
Mhm.
do it. So the way the model is split is also very strategic, that like every module kind of makes sense on its own. Like, this is a cool city gate that you can just put on your shelf and you put some minifigures in. There's like the post office module with the workshop. It's also kind of within like this little cozy space, and then that you have the door and you have the lookout. So there's also that, like, again, I just try to achieve so many things with this set, making sure that people look at it and they actually wouldn't have a reason not to get it in a way,
Mhm.
apart from of course the price that is out of my hands. But I hope when they get it, they feel like the money is there.
For
Um,
what it's worth, like I agree that it's a lot of money for
yeah,
anybody, but in terms of value, I think value, because I think price versus value is two
yeah.
very different things, right? And I think there is certainly value here. Like the level of value in the set is very, very high. And
All the figures.
yes. Oh, trust me. And yeah, I can talk about just broadly this year for Ninjago. I am amazed by how many new characters we're getting. It will be revealed by the time this goes up, so I can mention
Yeah,
it. The build a minifigure too. I woke up to
yeah,
that the other day, an email about
yeah.
that, and I was
I am
like,
also very excited. I also took part in that because, as I said earlier, they know I'm a fan, so they trusted me with a lot of the decisions this wave with what minifigures would be fun. There again, it was again this puzzle game, right? Basically, like here, we are given a certain number of frames, and then we are asked to make 7 exciting characters.
"Mhm,
And again, I went through so many different rendition of what could be the nice combination. One I'm particularly excited for is the only form of Mystake,
yes,
because at the same time I
yes,
was working on this and I was like, now within 1 year you get both version of her. I mean,
yeah."
of course, she is not as accurate as people probably would hope for, but for a build a minifigure, I hope it's still super exciting
The
to get
important
her
parts are there.
and
Yeah.
get that.
And
Um,
again, it's like going back and thinking, like I went back and because in like 2021, I want to say, I went and I compiled a
yeah,
list of every Ninjago minifigure that we're missing and I wanted to see. And I think now like that my top 10 are fully now. And it's like,
that's good to hear.
yeah, it was like Casual Harumi, Dr. Julien, Faith, Camille. Um, like it's I'm so and yeah, like Oni Mystake is one of those things where it's like that would be so nice, but we don't even have regular Mystake, so that's never gonna
Yeah.
happen. And
No,
now
you have
both are
both
happening.
now. Yeah.
Yes. And yeah, the blue outfit for Nia, and then that Thor is really cool because now we can make casual Imperium outfits
Yes.
too
Yeah.
with that
That was
torso,
the
which is
intention.
mhm,
So that
so
someone
cool.
can buy a bunch of those torso. Um,
Yes.
and then there's also the casual pixel, right?
Yes, casual
Yeah.
pixel and the
Yeah.
Dareth, which is like
Yeah.
it seems just like Legacy Season 1 style.
Yeah, I think it's
Season 2.
based on the version in the Temple of Hideout, right? I think is it?
It might be that version. I think to me it
Yeah.
looked a little more like the original Season 2 version, but it might be sort of a.
I
I mean,
can't
it is like a new
remember.
design. So
Yeah.
either
But
way, it's been a
the
while since
graphics
we've
team
gotten Dareth.
did an amazing job overall, like throughout the
Yes.
year. There's so many minifigures. I just look at them and like I can't wait to get my copy of this at home.
Yeah, but like
Um,
that, the anniversary figures, Ray and Maya, Grimfax is coming in March.
yeah,
Like it's so much that
and there's still
very
much more to come, right? There's still
yes,
summer.
I'm very
Um,
curious what summer has in store.
I
I,
want to I want
I
to I want to drop a teaser here. I think I mentioned it to you already, but this is not even the thing that I'm most excited about that I've
yes,
worked
that's
on this year.
crazy. That's
Um,
crazy. I'm looking forward to seeing what you've cooked up.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't even because this is a change from last year. Fan Media Days last year, we got to see a bit of summer. So while I didn't know everything, I had an idea of like this is what the villains are, this is what the ninja suits look like. This year,
yeah,
when this releases, I'm caught up. Like the audience knows
yes.
just as much as I do. So I'm very curious to see what summer holds.
I'm very excited to talk about the summer stuff. It's gonna be really, really cool. That's all I can
Um,
say.
we have gone way over time, but I really
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. This has been amazing. Yeah, I look forward to covering this set. I think based off the content of this conversation, this interview will probably go up after my review, probably like a day or two
yeah.
later. Um, but yeah, I think this will very insightful for myself, and
There,
also I think the audience is gonna really love this.
two more things. Is there any references in this set that you're not sure what
This,
they're
the
about?
one that I mentioned to you, the newspaper that's not the one with
It is the
Wichita on
it
it.
is in Rebooted when they went to space and they're so bugged. And then Nia was flipping over that book and said those bugs were also in that meteorite that some guys discovered back then in Ninjago City.
Oh
It's
wow!
that
Okay.
that photo of the guy next to the meteorite.
That's okay. That's awesome. Okay, I think that's the only one that I might be missing something. But
The spider web one inside here is actually what the where the typo is, I think. Because the last guy who interviewed me pointed out there's like actually a typo on the spider web.
oh
I don't know
really?
if you have translated that already.
Not
It's meant
no.
it's meant to say sleep, sleep, and it's a reference to that song of
Yes.
Harumi because there is indeed a spider in that room. Um, so hopefully, even though there's a typo, I hope the reference comes across. Uh,
But at least the typo's on a sticker and not a minifigure this time.
yes, yes. Um,
But no, that for sure. I think that it'll still be very clear. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to sitting down and covering this set. I've been so focused on the getting the main wave finished so that way I can move on to this one. But
I'm
the
very excited to see your review
yes.
of it. Um, there's just one more thing. I actually brought something with me. I hope you still have the box around.
Yes, I do. It's filled with bags, but I do still have the box around.
Because when I talked about storage earlier, you can actually put the whole set back into the box.
Oh, that's awesome.
Of course, you have to take off the roof stand. And then I think the crane also have to be taken off. And then this whole main tower, you will slide down.
That's impressive.
Then there's like all the other sets. There's enough space for it. You can just plop them. You can actually also buff, and you just shove it under your bed. Your next
Wow.
fight. You know, so there is really no reason why you would say I don't have the space for this set.
That is impressive.
But yeah,
Yeah, I am blown away how much you managed to get in one single product. You hit it from all angles somehow, and I'm looking. If this is not your favorite set you've done this year, I'm looking forward to what's next because Blacksmith. I don't know. It's kind of hard to compare the Blacksmith Shop to this one, but those are like my two favorite products of 2026 so far, and yeah, I can't wait to see what's next.
what about the car?
The car, true. I don't have the car yet, so I can't comment on the car.
Okay,
The car is
fair
still an
point.
enigma
Once
to
you
me.
build it, it's gonna be your favorite.
I truly can't
That's
form an opinion without having built that one, you know?
that is the most exciting set of the year.
Yes. No, I am going to
There-
be. I don't normally rush to get polybags, but that one I'm
Yeah.
going to be trying to figure out how to get on January 1st. Because polybag distribution, especially in the States, is very weird, but hope I can find it. So
I hope people can find that one. I mean,
it'll be out
I also
eventually, but
heard
like,
it's in general very difficult to find polybags, and I remember back in my days just as a fan, I also always find it very
Mhm.
difficult to find them. But I hope people can get their hands on the
but
car.
worst case scenario, I make a run to Legoland because Legoland always has all of them.
I see. That's cool.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for the set, and I guess to the
You're
viewers, thanks
most
for
welcome.
watching.
Yeah. See you guys again, hopefully later the year.
Yes, I would love to do this again.